This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a comedy, horror, and sci-fi film called Psycho Goreman. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Long ago, a nameless evil reigned over the planet Gygax. He gathered immeasurable power to destroy everything good in the universe, but the forces of light banded together to defeat him. He was then imprisoned, and if released, he could bring doom to all. Siblings Mimi and Luke play crazy ball when they throw balls at each other until their balls collide. Mimi then lunges at her brother, landing a blow and winning the game. As punishment, Luke digs a hole in the backyard where he'll sleep. However, while digging, they find a glowing gem, so Mimi tries to force it out. When she fails, Luke takes a closer look and notices writings around it, so he suggests pressing them. Mimi randomly presses on the writings and the gem is finally released. She happily takes it, but the earth starts shaking and a glow emits from under them. Afraid, the siblings hurry out of the hole and start covering it. When their mom, Susan, checks in on them, the siblings have covered up the hole. While being tucked into bed, Luke asks his dad, Greg, if monsters are real. Greg answers that humans are the monsters, but Susan intervenes and assures him that there's no such thing. Later that night, Mimi checks the backyard and sees something glowing from under the soil. By knocking at their shared wall, Luke tells Mimi that they might have woken up their deceased grandmother, but Mimi believes their grandmother is in hell. When they go back to sleep, a clawed hand emerges from their backyard. At an old shoe factory, a group of thieves is arguing about their haul when a large creature appears. The group threatens him, but the creature easily swipes the leader to the side, knocking him down. He then lifts the other men using telekinesis and decapitates them with his bare hands. He moves to the leader, who begs for his life. The monster assures him that he will live forever before casting a curse. By morning, the family finds a large hole in the backyard with marks on the soil as if someone crawled out. On the way to school, Luke suggests calling the police, but Mimi refuses to and decides to search for whatever climbed out of the hole by themselves. Luke thinks it's crazy, but Mimi is determined to become a hero. That evening, the siblings investigate the hole and follow footprints to the old shoe factory. Luke gets scared, so Mimi gives him a ball that she made with nails and pins, calling it the Luke Killer. Inside the factory, Mimi calls out to whatever's hiding in the shadows, but gets no response. They turn to leave, only to find the thieves' dead bodies everywhere. The creature then approaches them, so Luke tries to run away, but the creature uses his powers to make him stop. Suddenly, Mimi yells at him and demands him to release Luke, so he does. Luke then notices the gem glowing from her pocket. Mimi asks the creature if it's his, and when he doesn't respond, she orders him to speak. Finally, the monster tells her that it's the gem of Peroxidike. He then raises a barrel to throw at the children, but Mimi realizes her power and orders him to explain. With that, the monster drops the barrel and explains that whoever wields the gem commands him. Amused, Mimi tests it out and orders the monster to spin Luke around. Using telekinesis, the creature does as he's told, then drops Luke when Mimi says so. The creature threatens Mimi, pointing to the thieves' leader, who's still alive yet trapped in his body to suffer eternal pain. As he rambles on about his powers, Luke, who's feeling dizzy, knocks over the man's body. The man's skull shatters against the floor, thus ending his pain. The creature laments at his masterpiece being destroyed, so Luke apologizes. Unbothered by the bloody mess, Mimi asks the monster his name, so the creature tells her that his enemies called him the Archduke of Nightmares. Not liking it, Mimi asks her brother for suggestions on what to call the creature. The siblings spend the evening thinking of names until Mimi decides to name him Psycho Goreman, or PG for short. With that, Mimi orders him to wait for them until morning. With no choice, PG sits and yells that he'll make them suffer eternally for this, but Mimi just waves him goodbye. Outside, Mimi starts plotting how she can use PG, but Luke thinks the monster will kill everybody. Mimi agrees to wait for a while since she'll need to teach PG cool tricks first anyway. On another planet, a group of aliens gathers as they detect that PG is free. They're surprised that someone deciphered their code and released the gem, believing that whoever did it must be far more intelligent than them. Their leader, Templar Pandora, decides to kill the Archduke of Nightmares. One of the aliens doubts that she could do it, so she chokes him as she reminds everyone that her kind were the ones who cleansed their planets from the Archduke's evil. Pandora then asks another alien about the planet where the Archduke is, and it teleports a woman to show her a sample of its inhabitants. Pandora squishes the woman into a cube and wipes her face with the blood, thus beginning her transformation. The next day, the siblings take their friend, Alistair, to meet PG, but the monster doesn't respond. Thinking he's dead, Mimi reaches out to him, but PG suddenly turns to attack her. However, Mimi holds out the gem, ordering him to stop. Luke then asks PG what he is, so the creature sits down and tells the children his story. PG was born as a slave on the planet Gygax where he served the Templars. It all changed when PG discovered the gem of Praxidike that was forged with energy from the darkest corners of the galaxy. He merged this with his body, thus gaining its power. Using it, he killed the Templars on their planet and became Gygax's new ruler. He created the Paladins of Sidion to conquer more planets, but the Templars allied with other planets to imprison him. After his tale, the children get up to leave. Mimi tasks him with watching TV and learning how to be more fun. Alistair tells PG that it was nice meeting him, and PG tells him that it'll be nicer if they were dead. Now alone, PG uses the TV to communicate with his paladins. Later, Luke and Alistair play video games, leaving Mimi alone in the backyard. While playing in his room, Luke spots PG arriving in the backyard, so he and Alistair hurry out. Mimi insists on playing Crazy Ball with PG, but the creature doesn't know how to play and just rambles about an ancient torture technique. Mimi stresses that she doesn't care about that, though she wonders about making Alistair stop being a dork. PG recounts how he once helped a warlord seduce a princess, so he offers to do the same for Mimi. Alistair gets weirded out and decides to go home, so Mimi orders PG to make the boy stay. Soon, Susan sees what's happening outside, so she storms out with a baseball bat. There, Luke complains about how PG turned Alistair into a large, brain-like monster while Susan hits PG with the bat, which easily breaks. Greg follows her out and they cower before the monster, so Mimi orders PG not to hurt her parents. She introduces them to PG, assuring them that he won't hurt anyone. PG, however, keeps threatening them, but the girl just laughs it off. With that, the siblings spend their days with PG and the monster like Alistair. They play music in the garage and head to town, where PG makes a kid who insults him explode. Mimi and her mom also get PG a makeover, while Luke struggles to play video games with Alistair. One day, Luke asks what PG ate on his planet. The creature recounts that in Gygax, to be eaten is a warrior's death. He begins a tale about one of his great battles, but Mimi interrupts to talk about their schedule. She also takes Luke's fries, much to her brother's annoyance. That evening, Luke has a nightmare where he's in a graveyard. PG uses this to speak to the boy privately and asks him to take the gem from Mimi. He stresses that other beings will learn that he's free and take over their planet to destroy him. He urges Luke to take the gem so he can spare their lives, but Luke refuses to betray his sister. PG points out that Mimi treats him horribly, so they'll be free from her madness by taking the gem. Still, Luke thinks freeing PG would just make things worse. The next day, the siblings teach PG and Alistair how to play Crazy Ball. Luke notes that when two balls collide, it causes a switcheroo. This will award a player their opponent's points if they punch them first. Suddenly, cops discover PG with the kids, so they start shooting at him, which accomplishes nothing. PG makes one of the cops, Vince, kneel before melting his flesh. He tells the other cop to warn everyone not to resist his power again. With that, the surviving cop runs and Vince begins to follow PG as his master. Alistair starts to leave, so Mimi goes to him. The boy wonders if he'll ever be normal again, and Mimi admits that she doesn't think so but assures him that she likes him nonetheless. With that, Alistair walks home. In the woods, Vince hands Mimi a card that says, "Please kill me." Appalled, Mimi scolds him for not writing about his love for her instead. This prompts PG to ask about love, so Luke explains that it's when one feels happy around someone. Mimi claims that love is for losers, but Luke teases her about having a crush on Alistair. Suddenly, Mimi orders PG to kill her brother, so he grabs him only for the girl to make him stop. His sister laughs at him while Luke watches her put the gem into her backpack. Meanwhile, a woman teleports at the police station. Pandora, now in the form of the woman she killed, asks about the Archduke, so the cop from earlier tells her that it's the one who took Vince. She touches the man's head to read his memories, which makes his face light up. In the woods, the Paladins of Sidion teleport before the kids. Dark Scream, one of PG's generals, greets his master, so PG orders them to kill the siblings. To their surprise, the aliens laugh, revealing that they've been leading better lives since PG's imprisonment. They explain that they've been taking turns becoming the leader of the fifth moon of Gygax, so everyone gets a fair chance. Dark Scream is the current leader, who reveals that the Templars allowed them to rule in exchange for PG's imprisonment. With this, PG prepares to fight with his former allies, but Mimi prevents him from fighting as revenge for ordering them to be killed. With this, the aliens take turns in beating PG up. After a while, the kids get bored watching the fight, so Mimi orders PG to apologize. He refuses to because he's a ruler, so the kids start to leave. Desperate, PG stops them and apologizes to Mimi. The girl accepts this and allows him to fight back. Finally, PG unleashes his wrath on his former allies, easily ripping them apart. Vince also shoots PG, but he stabs him in the eyes, killing him. Soon, PG defeats them all, leaving only Darkscream, whom he devours, much to Luke's disgust and Mimi's delight. After defeating his foes, PG suddenly collapses, realizing that the alien's blades were cursed, therefore he's dying. Meanwhile, in their home, Susan complains about her husband being lazy. When she dares him to say what he does for their home, Greg isn't able to answer, so he ends up going to the toilet instead. There, an odd light approaches him, which suddenly turns into PG's head, ordering him to pick them up. Soon, Greg takes PG and the kids and drives them back home. However, they find Susan with Pandora, whom PG recognizes immediately. Susan begs her children to let Pandora handle PG, but Mimi refuses. Instead, she orders Luke to beat Pandora up while they run. Luke tries to argue, so Mimi punches him. Finally, Luke stands up for himself and exits the truck, telling Mimi that she can't push him around anymore. He joins his mother, but Greg sides with Mimi and drives away. They take PG to the shoe factory, where he tells them that he can only be cured using the gem. Mimi hesitates, so Greg takes his daughter away to talk privately. Greg recounts how when he was a child, a guy offered to show him his baseball cards, so he went to the back of his van. Fortunately, the guy only showed him the baseball cards there, so Greg is glad that he trusted him. Now, he advises his daughter to trust PG. Meanwhile, in their home, Pandora reveals her true form and prepares a concoction, which she gives to Susan so she can help her fight. Susan drinks the concoction and starts glowing. At the shoe factory, Mimi offers to give PG back the gem if he promises not to kill her and her family. PG agrees, so Mimi checks her bag but realizes that the gem is gone. Suddenly, the door bursts open and Pandora enters. Behind her is Susan in alien armor and Luke, who has the gem. Pandora tells Luke to give her the gem, but he refuses to do so until his family is safe. Mimi lunges at Pandora, but Susan stops her. Greg refuses to help his wife since she thinks he's lazy, so Susan approaches him, leaving Luke to deal with his sister. Cornered by his wife, Greg tries to appease her, even agreeing to therapy as she wanted. Still, Susan shoots at him and chokes him. Meanwhile, Mimi pins Luke down and threatens him with a Luke killer. She demands the gem back, but Luke cries that humans are the real monsters and Mimi is one of them. Angered, Mimi raises the Luke killer but hesitates. During this, PG is on his knees, suffering from Pandora's power, when he requests a different battle. He points out that the Templar's code allows a defeated foe one last chance, so she should honor his request. With no choice, Pandora releases him and PG calls on Mimi to decide what kind of battle they should settle things with. Divided into two teams, they battle each other in Crazy Ball. Susan tries to teach Pandora how to win, but human actions still confuse her. Still, Luke and Susan earn enough points and only need one more to win. Luke and Mimi face off as the boy lets out his frustrations about his sister's bullying. They throw a ball at the same time, causing a switcheroo. With only one move to win, Mimi lunges at her brother and punches him in the gut, thus winning the game. Delighted, Greg high-fives PG but breaks his arm in the process. Still, Pandora swings a sword at PG, so Mimi shields him. This doesn't stop Pandora, so Susan protects her daughter. As the two battle it out, Mimi demands the gem from Luke. However, he doesn't trust his sister because she's always mean to him. Suddenly, Mimi starts singing about how he's the best, making Luke watch her gleefully. Confused, PG asks if this is love and Greg says yes. Finally, Luke tosses the gem to Mimi, just as Pandora knocks Susan back. She then removes Susan's alien armor, causing her to fall into Greg's arms. Despite her condition, Greg asks her to take him to the hospital because his arm is broken, making her roll her eyes. Pandora then approaches the family, but PG stops her with his powers. With the gem fused into his body, he starts tearing her apart, using pieces of her to make a sword. The two then clash swords while Mimi and Luke finally reconcile. Soon, PG strikes Pandora and destroys her blade. As she dies, she tells the family that they've just allowed the end of the universe. Towering before her, PG proudly declares his name as Psycho Gorman and decides to give Pandora a warrior's death. Opening his jaw wide, he consumes Pandora while the kids take their parents away in horror. PG soon joins them outside, so Mimi asks what he plans to do now. He tells them that he intends to continue his reign of chaos but promises to spare them. He then takes the gem from his body and returns it to Mimi. PG declares that he no longer needs it since he's found the power of love within himself. Before he leaves, Mimi gives him a flying kiss, which he catches and reciprocates. He then creates a portal into a different town and begins destroying the place. Soon, the news reports of a giant PG's attack on multiple cities. Meanwhile, Alistair's mother calls him for dinner, so he joins them in his monstrous form that his parents don't even notice. Light years away, the Alien Alliance sees PG's attacks, so they contemplate killing themselves with a gun before PG finds them.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.